You walk to the kitchen. Your dog follows. You head upstairs. Your dog follows. You sit on the couch. Your dog curls up right beside you. You even go to the bathroom, and somehow, your dog is already waiting outside the door. If you've ever shared your home with a dog, this pattern is so familiar, it barely registers anymore. It's just what dogs do. But if you slow down and actually think about it, really think about it, the question becomes genuinely fascinating. Why do they do this? Why does your dog feel such a powerful pull to be wherever you are? Is it simply love? Is it some ancient survival instinct they haven't outgrown? Is it about food, about safety, about attachment? Or is the answer something more layered? Something that lives at the intersection of evolution, neuroscience, and the 10,000-year relationship between humans and dogs. Today, we're going to find out. We're going to peel back the behavior and look at what's really happening inside your dog's mind and body when they choose, over and over again, to follow you. And by the end, I think you'll see your dog a little differently. Not as a pet that's being needy, but as a living creature whose entire emotional world is oriented around you. Let's begin. To understand why your dog follows you, we need to travel back in time roughly 15,000 years. Give or take a few thousand depending on which research you follow. At that point in history, dogs didn't exist. Not as we know them today. What existed were wolves, wild, cautious, deeply social predators living in the forests and grasslands, alongside early human communities. And then something remarkable began to happen. Certain wolves, the ones with slightly less fear of humans, slightly more tolerance for proximity, began to drift toward human campsites. Maybe it was the scraps of food. Maybe it was the warmth of the fire. Maybe it was something more complex that we still don't fully understand. But those wolves that stayed close didn't get chased away. They got fed. They survived. They reproduced. Over generations, something incredible unfolded. The wolves that self-selected to be near humans were slowly, gradually shaped by that proximity. Their behavior changed. Their appearance changed, rounder faces, floppy ears, varied coat colors. Their brains changed, and most importantly, their relationship with humans changed from one of cautious coexistence to something far deeper. This is the origin story of every single dog alive today. Not a story of domestication by force, but a story of mutual attraction. Dogs chose us as much as we chose them, and here's why that matters for our question. Over thousands of years of this process, staying close to humans became a survival advantage. The dogs that followed their humans, that tracked their movements, stayed nearby, maintained proximity, those dogs thrived. The ones that wandered too far, that were too independent, that didn't maintain that gravitational pull toward the humans. They lived with those dogs had a harder time. In other words, the behavior you see every day. When your dog trails behind you through the house isn't random. It isn't quirky. It isn't even really about you specifically, at a purely biological level. It is a deeply ingrained survival behavior, selected for across hundreds of generations. Baked into your dog's DNA. When your dog follows you, they are doing what their ancestors learned to do to stay alive. Beyond evolution, there's a second force at work, and it has to do with how dogs are wired to think about their social world. Dogs are fundamentally pack animals. They are built at a neurological and behavioral level to live in groups. In the wild, canines eat together, travel together, rest together, and protect each other. The group is the basic unit of survival. Being alone isn't just uncomfortable for a dog. It can feel genuinely threatening, because in the ancestral environment, isolation meant vulnerability. Now, your dog lives in a house. They don't have a pack of wolves. What they have is you and your family, if you have one, and your dog's brain, working with the same social software that wild canines have always used. Maps you onto the role of their group, their pack, their people. This matters because of what it means when you leave a room. To us, walking from the living room to the kitchen is a completely neutral act. It means nothing. We don't even think about it. But to your dog, operating under pack logic, the movement of a key group member is always significant. It's information, needs to be tracked. It might mean something is happening, food, activity, a walk, a threat, something worth knowing about, and so your dog follows. Not because they're anxious necessarily, and not because they're bored, but because monitoring the movements of their group members is simply what pack animals do. It is their default social behavior, running quietly in the background of everything else they do. There's also something else worth noting here. Research in animal cognition has consistently found that dogs are uniquely attuned to human social cues, far more so than any other animal, including our closest primate relatives. Dogs follow the direction of human gaze. They respond to pointing, something even chimpanzees largely cannot do spontaneously. They read our facial expressions. They pick up on our emotional states. In short, your dog doesn't just live near you. They are actively, continuously reading you, and following you is how they stay close enough to do that. Here is where we get to something truly extraordinary. Something that, when I first learned about it, genuinely moved me. In developmental psychology, there is a concept called the secure base effect. It was first described by the psychologist John Bowlby in the mid-20th century. In the context of human infants and their caregivers, the idea is this. When a young child feels securely attached to a caregiver, when they trust that this person is present, reliable, and will return, they use that person as a base from which to explore the world. The child ventures out, investigates, tries new things, then returns. The caregiver's presence makes courage possible. This isn't just a metaphor. It's a measurable psychological phenomenon, tested and verified in hundreds of studies across many decades. Now, here's the remarkable part. Scientists decided to test whether dogs show the same effect, and they do, completely, clearly, and in ways that mirror the human infant studies almost exactly. In a series of elegant experiments, dogs were placed in unfamiliar environments, both with their owner present and with the owner absent. When the owner was there, the dogs explored confidently. They moved around, investigated objects, engaged with new stimuli. When the owner was removed from the room, the same dogs became significantly more hesitant. They were less willing to explore. They showed behavioral signs of stress. And when the owner returned, their stress resolved almost immediately. The researchers described this as dogs treating their human owner as a secure base, not just a food source, not just a fun companion, but an emotional anchor, a reference point that regulates their entire experience of the world. Your dog, in a very real psychological sense, needs you present in order to feel safe. And following you is how they maintain that feeling of security. Every time you move, there's a tiny moment of uncertainty, and following resolves it. You are still here. Things are okay. The world is still safe. This is not clinginess. This is attachment. An attachment, in this sense, it's one of the most profound things one creature can feel for another. Now, let's shift gears slightly and talk about something a bit more concrete. Because not every reason a dog follows you is about ancient instincts or deep emotional bonds. Some of it is simply learned behavior, habit, pattern recognition, and honestly, that might be your fault. Think for a moment about what happens when your dog follows you to the kitchen. Probably, at some point, maybe often, something good happens. They get a treat, a bit of attention, some food scraps, you talk to them, you pet them. Even if you don't do anything at all, you look at them, and for a dog, being seen is its own kind of reward. Dogs are incredible learners. They are, quite literally, built to read their environment and extract patterns from it. And if following you to the kitchen has repeatedly resulted in positive outcomes, food, attention, interaction, then your dog's brain has logged that information. It has filed it under, this works. This is classical conditioning and operant learning working in harmony. Your dog isn't being manipulative. They're not calculating. They're doing what every learning creature does, repeating behaviors that have been rewarded. And you, without even trying, have been rewarding the behavior of following you for years. Add to this the role of routine. Dogs are creatures of habit. They are deeply attuned to the rhythms of daily life. When you wake up, when you leave, when you come home, when meals happen, when walks occur. They map your routines onto their own sense of time and expectation. When you get up and move, it often signals the beginning of one of these routines. Feeding time? Maybe. Walk time? Playtime? The movement itself becomes a cue. So your dog follows, partly because the movement means something might be happening, and partly because the last several thousand times you moved through the house, something happened that was worth being present for. We've talked about evolution. We've talked about pack instincts. We've talked about attachment theory and learned behavior. But now I want to address the explanation that might seem the most obvious, and also the one that some people are reluctant to accept fully, because it feels almost too simple. Your dog follows you because they love you. I know that sounds like something a greeting card would say, but stay with me, because the science here is genuinely fascinating. In 2015, a research team in Japan published a study measuring oxytocin levels. That's the neurochemical often called the bonding hormone or the love hormone, both dogs and their owners during social interaction. What they found was striking. When dogs and their owners looked into each other's eyes, both the human and the dog experienced a significant rise in oxytocin, the same hormone, the same direction, in both species simultaneously. And here's what makes that remarkable. This mutual oxytocin loop is the same mechanism that underlies the bond between a human parent and infant. It is one of nature's most powerful bonding circuits, and it operates between dogs and humans just as it does between people. Your dog isn't just an animal that tolerates your presence. When you're together, when you make eye contact, when you pet them or play with them or simply exist in the same room, there is a biochemical conversation happening. Your dog's brain is producing chemicals that create warmth and connection and a desire for proximity, and your brain is doing the same. Your presence, your scent, your voice. Your physical warmth is genuinely comforting to your dog at a neurological level. Following you is how they stay inside that zone of comfort. They follow you because being near you feels good, because their brain has learned over years of life with you to associate your presence with safety, with positive emotion. It's what's something very close to what we might call joy. Now, with all of that warmth and biology in mind, there is an important distinction we should make. Because not all following is created equal, and knowing the difference matters. There is healthy following. The kind we've been talking about, a dog who trails you through the house, wants to be nearby, checks in often. This is normal. It's a sign of a well-bonded, socially healthy dog. And then there is anxious following. A dog who follows you because they are genuinely distressed by the idea of separation. A dog who monitors your every move, not out of curiosity or affection, but out of fear. These dogs often show other symptoms too. Panting when you prepare to leave. Trembling near the door, destructive behavior when alone. Barking that lasts 4 hours. Loss of appetite when separated from their person. This is called separation anxiety, and it is a real and significant psychological condition in dogs. It is not just a dog being dramatic or poorly trained. It is a state of genuine distress, the equivalent, in human terms, of a panic attack every time their attachment figure disappears. The psychology behind separation anxiety often traces back to inconsistent early attachment. A puppy who had an unstable first few months, frequent rehoming, or a traumatic experience. It can also be accidentally reinforced by owners who respond to anxious behavior with excessive reassurance, which inadvertently teaches the dog that anxiety gets results. If your dog's following feels less like companionship and more like surveillance, they seem unable to settle unless you are in view. If departure triggers visible panic, please consider speaking with a veterinary behaviorist. There are real, evidence-based interventions that help, and your dog deserves to feel safe even when you're not in the room. So, what do we do with all of this information? Let me offer a few practical thoughts. First, if your dog follows you and both of you seem happy about it, do nothing. Enjoy it. A dog who wants to be near you is a gift, not a problem. There is nothing wrong with a Velcro dog, as they're sometimes affectionately called, as long as the following comes from a place of contentment rather than distress. Second, if you want to gently encourage more independence, the key is to make being alone rewarding. Give your dog a comfortable, safe space of their own, a bed in a corner, a crate they associate with positive things, a specific area that's theirs. When they voluntarily settle in that space, reward them. Don't make a big production of your departures and arrivals.com. Neutral transitions teach your dog that your movement is nothing to be anxious about. Third, invest in genuine quality time. This sounds counterintuitive, but a dog who gets sufficient, meaningful interaction with their owner, real walks, real play. Real engagement is often more capable of resting independently. They've had their needs met, the tank is full, you can relax. And finally, remember that boundaries and love are not opposites. You can love your dog deeply and still not allow them in every room, on every piece of furniture, or at your side every single moment. Dogs do not experience reasonable limits as rejection. What they need is consistency, clarity, and the fundamental security of knowing that you will return. We started this video with a simple observation. Your dog follows you everywhere. And we've discovered that behind this simple, daily behavior is a story that spans 15,000 years of shared history. A story of wolves who chose fire over forest, of generations of animals shaped by proximity, to humans until they could no longer imagine life without us, of a brain that produces the same love chemicals we do, of a psychological bond so deep that researchers use the same vocabulary to describe it as they use for human: parent-child attachment. Your dog follows you because evolution built them too, because their social brain treats you as their group, their family, their pack, because you are their secure base, the emotional anchor that makes the world feel navigable and safe. Because doing so has, across their life with you, been consistently rewarding, and because at a level that is genuinely chemical, genuinely neurological, genuinely real, they love you. There is something quietly profound in that, something that I think we too easily overlook in the busyness of daily life. Your dog has no agenda beyond being near you. They have no phone to check, no task list to finish, no distraction pulling their attention away. When they follow you, they are present completely, wholeheartedly, with everything they have in the simple act of being with you. Maybe every now and then, we can try to meet them halfway. Look down at the dog beside your feet. Slow down for a moment. Let that presence land. They followed you here after all.